Brandi was never famous. She didn't have followers, talent, or even a plan. Yet one morning, she woke up to thousands of messages calling her the voice that changed their lives. The strangest part? She had seen that exact moment years before in her mind. Back then, her world was small, a cubicle, a broken keyboard, and the hum of fluorescent lights that made dreams sound impossible. Her reality whispered, "Stay where you are," but her imagination shouted, "You were made for more." Every night, she closed her eyes and entered a world that didn't exist. In that world, people listened when she spoke. Her words healed, her voice inspired. It felt like a secret life, one that belonged only to her, until the day it didn't. The question isn't how Brandi did it. It's how reality knew what she imagined and started to rearrange itself to match her vision. And once you hear how it happened, you'll never look at your own imagination the same way again. Brandi's story began in a place most people never leave, a job that paid the bills but starved her soul. Every morning, she'd watch the elevator doors close, feeling like they were locking away her dreams with her. She wasn't miserable, just numb. That's how she knew something was wrong. Her coworkers talked about promotions and deadlines, but Brandi talked about purpose. What if life could feel like it means something? She once asked Daniel, the quiet graphic designer who sat beside her. He smiled politely, but didn't answer. Nobody ever did. One night, scrolling through her phone in bed, she stumbled upon a short clip about the law of attraction. The speaker said, "Whatever you repeatedly visualize will eventually feel so real that reality has no choice but to catch up." She laughed at first, but something inside her whispered, "What if it's true?" That night, she wrote 7 words in her notebook. "I speak, and the world listens to me." She had no idea that single line would become the first brick in a new reality. From that night on, she made a quiet promise to stop surviving and start creating. Because maybe, just maybe, life wasn't about finding opportunities, but training reality to recognize who you were becoming. If you've ever felt stuck in a life that doesn't look like your dream, stay close to this story. It might show you how the universe listens when you dare to visualize something impossible. Before we go on, take a second to subscribe to Manifestation Journey Stories. Every day, a new story is released to awaken your imagination, elevate your vibration, and remind you that the universe is always listening, especially when you dare to dream bigger. The alarm rang every morning at 6:30, but Brandi had stopped hearing it. Her body moved on autopilot, same coffee, same parking space, same sigh before the office door clicked shut behind her. It was a job that didn't hurt, but didn't heal either, and that kind of emptiness was harder to live with than pain. Daniel, the designer who sat next to her, often joked, "We're just pixels in someone else's project." She would smile, but inside, his words stung with truth. Brandi wasn't living, she was being processed, one email, one report, one meaningless meeting at a time. It wasn't failure she feared most, it was disappearing quietly into a life that never belonged to her. During lunch breaks, she would scroll through videos of people who seemed free, artists, speakers, creators living lives painted in color, while hers stayed gray. For a moment, envy would rise, but then a strange thought would whisper, "What if I could design my own freedom?" That single thought felt like oxygen in a windowless room. One afternoon, while typing a dull report, she noticed a sticky note Daniel had left on his monitor. It said, Create something today, even if it sucks. Brandi laughed under her breath, but copied the phrase into her notebook. It didn't feel like rebellion. It felt like permission. The smallest spark can start a silent fire, and something inside her had just begun to burn. That night, as she sat by the window, city lights reflecting off the glass, she whispered, "I can't keep living like this." It wasn't a complaint, it was a declaration. And though the world around her didn't move, something in the air shifted. It didn't know it, but the cage was beginning to crack from the inside. The next morning, a single event would confirm that the universe had heard her whisper.
That next morning, Brandi woke up with an unusual calm, as if her mind had decided to start over before her body caught up. On her nightstand sat the notebook she'd written in a few nights earlier. "I speak, and the world listens to me." The ink had bled slightly across the page, as if the words had been waiting to grow roots. Something inside whispered, "Do it again." She began writing that same sentence every morning, then closing her eyes for 5 quiet minutes. In that silence, she saw herself standing on a small stage, her voice confident, her message clear. She could almost hear people clapping, though the sound came only from her imagination. At first, it felt ridiculous, but something in her chest came alive each time she did it. Days turned into weeks, and those 5 minutes became her favorite part of the day. Instead of dragging herself through the noise of the world, she began tuning in to a different frequency, one of possibility. Daniel noticed the glow on her face and joked, "You're either in love or planning an escape." She smiled, but said nothing. In truth, she was doing both. She added more detail to her vision. The color of the lights, the hum of the microphone, the warmth of the audience. Each morning, she rehearsed a life that didn't yet exist. The more she imagined it, the less she fit into the old one. Reality hadn't shifted, but she had, and reality would soon have to follow. Then one evening, while scrolling through her phone, she paused on a post that said, "Your imagination is rehearsal for your destiny." She stared at it for a long time. Maybe this was more than daydreaming. Maybe this was spiritual architecture. And tomorrow, she would test just how real it could become. Because soon, her private visions would start leaving evidence in the real world. The shift began quietly, so quietly that Brandi almost missed it. One morning, as she walked to work, she noticed the sunlight hitting the city windows differently. It wasn't the world that had changed, it was how she was looking at it. For the first time, she felt like the universe wasn't ignoring her. It was waiting for her next move. That night, during her usual visualization, she felt a strong impulse: share your voice. The thought was so clear it startled her. She didn't know what it meant, but she followed it. She opened her phone, hit record, and spoke about something she'd written in her journal: how people lose themselves chasing approval. Her voice trembled, but it was real. She posted it before she could overthink. By the next morning, her phone was buzzing. The video had reached 10,000 views overnight. Comments flooded in. "You said exactly what I needed to hear. How did you put my feelings into words?" Brandi sat frozen at her desk, staring at the screen, realizing that her imagined world had just sent a message back. Daniel leaned over her shoulder. "You made this?" he asked, disbelief mixed with curiosity. "Brandi, people are connecting with you. You should keep doing this." She laughed nervously. "It's just one video." But inside, she knew it wasn't. It was a doorway, and something inside her was already stepping through. As she walked home that evening, city lights blurred into golden streaks around her. It felt like reality had loosened, as if the edges between her dreams and the world were beginning to dissolve. She didn't know it yet, but her life had already started rearranging itself to fit the version she had visualized. The next opportunity wouldn't just surprise her, it would demand that she choose which reality she truly belonged to. Weeks passed, and Brandi kept posting small videos. Nothing planned, nothing perfect. She spoke from her heart each night before bed, the same time she used to visualize. It became a rhythm. Imagine, speak, release. What she didn't notice was how many lives her words were already reaching, until the message came. An email with the subject line, "Invitation to Speak." At first, she thought it was spam, but as she read it, her breath caught. A producer had found her videos and wanted her to share her message at a personal growth event in Los Angeles. She laughed out loud, crying and shaking at the same time. This was the exact scene she had pictured. The lights, the crowd, the stage. Every detail matched. When she arrived at the venue, Daniel came along for support. Backstage, the air felt electric. She touched the microphone, her fingers trembling. "I've been here before," she whispered. Daniel smiled, not understanding. "You've got this." But she wasn't nervous. She was remembering something her soul had already rehearsed. When she stepped onto the stage, the audience stood to applaud. For a moment, the sound blurred, the lights softened, and she saw flashes of her past self, the gray cubicle, the notebook, the quiet tears she never let anyone see. Then it hit her. This wasn't luck. This was alignment. She had become the version of herself she once imagined. And as she began to speak, her voice carried the weight of every doubt she had ever overcome. It wasn't just a talk. It was a reunion between her vision and her reality. And as the crowd listened, Brandi realized something profound. She hadn't forced life to change. She had simply stopped resisting who she truly was. But what happened after that moment would prove that bending reality was only the beginning.
Months passed after that first event, but something inside Brandi stayed different. The applause faded, yet the peace remained. She had learned that true manifestation wasn't about forcing outcomes. It was about flowing with divine timing. Her mornings began with gratitude instead of alarms, and the woman who once lived for weekends now woke up excited for Mondays. Daniel eventually left his job too. "You ruined corporate life for me," he joked, but his eyes gleamed with pride. Together they built a creative studio, not the kind that chased trends, but the kind that built stories meant to heal. Clients came through word of mouth, drawn not just to their work, but to their calm energy. The more they gave, the more life gave back. Money began to flow naturally. Unexpected opportunities arrived. Partnerships, invitations, streams of income that seemed to appear out of nowhere. Yet the greatest wealth was freedom. Brandi could take a walk at noon, travel without guilt, or spend quiet afternoons journaling in coffee shops overlooking the ocean. Her old gray office life now felt like a distant dream she had finally woken from. Every morning she still practiced visualization, not to get more, but to stay aligned. She'd picture her business growing with grace, her creativity flowing effortlessly, her future self smiling with ease. She called it her vibration maintenance, and the more she did it, the more she noticed how gentle success could feel when it was led by peace instead of pressure. Her voice continued to reach millions online. She began receiving letters from people saying her words had helped them believe again, artists who picked up a brush, mothers who started small businesses, students who stopped doubting their purpose. Each message reminded her that manifestation wasn't about ego, it was about expansion. When one person awakens, everyone nearby begins to rise. One evening, she hosted a live workshop on the beach. The sun dipped below the horizon as hundreds of people sat in a circle around her. "You don't create the dream," she told them. "You remember it. You become it, until reality mirrors it back to you." When the crowd closed their eyes, a warm breeze swept through, as if the universe itself were nodding in agreement. Later that night, back in her home filled with plants, books, and soft music, Brandi opened her old notebook. On the first page, those faded 7 words smiled up at her. "I speak, and the world listens to me." She traced them with her finger, grateful for the younger version of herself who dared to believe. Every blessing she had now had begun with that single decision, to see life differently. As moonlight poured across her desk, Brandi whispered a truth she now lived by. Reality bends for those who feel it before they see it. Then she smiled, knowing that someone, somewhere, was writing their own first sentence tonight, and that the universe was already rearranging itself to meet them halfway. If this story stirred hope within you, subscribe to Manifestation Journey Stories. New stories arrive every day to lift your spirit, awaken your imagination, and remind you that what you visualize with love today may soon become the life you wake up to. In the end, Brandi's story wasn't about luck, fame, or talent. It was about alignment, the quiet art of believing before you see. She never begged the universe, she befriended it. And somewhere between her first trembling visualization and her final standing ovation, the line between imagination and reality disappeared completely. Her life became living proof that thoughts are not powerless wishes, they are blueprints for creation. Every moment you choose gratitude instead of fear, focus instead of doubt, you're whispering instructions to the universe about the world you're ready to live in. Brandi's journey reminds us that reality doesn't resist those who love it into being. So tonight, before you sleep, close your eyes for a few seconds. Picture the life you've been afraid to claim. See it clearly. Feel it deeply. Because the same energy that answered Brandi's vision is listening to yours right now, waiting for you to give it shape. If this story touched you, take a moment to subscribe to Manifestation Journey Stories. New stories are released every day to lift your vibration, inspire your purpose, and remind you that your vision is already on its way. And if this message resonated with you, like this video. It helps more dreamers like you find these stories of transformation and faith. Pinned comment question: what vision are you ready to see come true next? Share it below, because the moment you write it, the universe begins to read it.